What's up, fellow managers and all RPG enjoyers out there? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day today. I know last week I decided I was going to do a reaction video because I kind of ran out of time to do things properly. But this week I came across a channel called 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐬, and I came across a video called Let's Talk About Why It's Hard for Gacha Games to Make a Good Story. Anyway, I sent it to a couple people and I asked them, I go, hey, is there any spoilers in this? And they said no. So I thought it'd be a good idea to come in here. You guys already know my opinion on good story writing when it comes to like Limbus Company. I haven't really talked about Arknights at this point, but I figured I would at least jump in here, see what points in here I agree with, see if I disagree with anything. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and get into the video and see what it's about and see if I agree or disagree with these things. So
a bit ago there was a Steam sale, and during it I bought Trails in the Sky. What I imagine is the first game. I mean, at the very least I hope that's what they mean by chapter 1, but I picked it up because I heard it was a JRPG with a really good story, and to me that's the most important part of a game. The gameplay being good is of course something I'll never look over, but I find that games I play for the story usually stick around in my memory a lot longer than the ones I play for the gameplay. And
I mean, I definitely have to agree with playing games for the story. One of my all-time favorite games is still Final Fantasy Tactics. I still go back and I play it quite often. The story's still in my head. It'll be a game that I'll continue to play over and over again, just because of the different combinations of troops and whatnot you can play to get to the end. It's not really a great replay value game, but I definitely enjoy replaying it at least once every year or so.
I feel like it's been a while since I really played a story-focused game. I mean, thinking back on it, there's been like Expedition 33, but that's been some months ago. Final Fantasy Tactics, but the story...
Hey! Final Fantasy Tactics! I love this guy already.
didn't really blow me away, just felt...
Oh, man, you didn't like the story. It's understandable, though. It is a, 30-year game, a 30-year-old game almost at this point.
Like an average JRPG story, but aside from those, the last big story-focused game I played was Metaphor. And
I still got to play Metaphor, guys. Like, let me know if you guys want me to play Metaphor 𝐓𝐡𝐢𝐬. If you guys don't, I won't, but at least I won't play it on stream. But I'm gotta get around to playing it myself, and I probably gotta start playing a lot more of these games on Steam anyway, considering I'm going to probably be shifting away from the PlayStation before too much longer.
An entire year ago. So it got me wondering what I played throughout that time, and I realized, oh yeah, like a million different gacha games. For videos, I had played a ton and went through the story of them with some of their stories.
That's so cool. I like this drawing style artwork as they're showing off their characters.
It's taken a lot of time to go through because they're basically just visual novels. Though I was wondering why I didn't think of those gachas I played when I thought about story-focused games, and I think the reason why is because it's kind of hell for gachas to make a good story. And I know what I just said sounds crazy because you probably thought of some generation of story you read in one and are now preparing to cut my face off and wear it, but I don't...
Don't worry, I'm not going to cut your face off and wear it. I did see 2 decently good story-based gacha games on your thumbnail in Arknights and in Limbus Company, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. We'll see what you say.
Feel like what I said is crazy, as these games can have really good stories that I feel like more people should bring up instead of other things that are brought up over discussion of these games, but the genre...
What are those things?
Itself can heavily work against a story, which can make it harder to write. So I wanted to discuss some of what these problems are, go through why I think they make the story harder to write and why I view them differently than story-based games, or how the genre itself, namely the marketing aspect, influences the story writing. Then focus on games I think do a good job of combating these problems and how that brings their story to a better level. Now, the problems I've seen with making a story for a gacha game, the common pitfalls you'll have to deal with are, to focus first on characters, a lot of the problems stem from the desire to sell as much as they can. This makes it so they're often being made...
No, I can definitely see that, especially games with like... So like I just did the what your favorite gacha game says about you video not too long ago, and a lot of the gacha games on that list, it's all about dropping a new character as often as possible. You've got like your Genshin Impact, you've got your Honkai Star Rail, and so those games definitely suffer from that problem, whereas you can't really have a story based around character driven decisions. And it's so far I'm agreeing with that being a big problem. That's why Limbus Company does it so well, is because you've only got the 12 characters to focus the story around. Like, it's a lot easier to do a story-driven narrative, you know, when you've got characters to push what you're going for.
To revolve around the protagonist, being watered down to sell, not having big connections between each other, not existing outside of their marketing segments, then needing to throw characters at your face every patch to sell them. And to focus on restrictions with overall story aspects, there's a story never ending, it being a constant yes and fan backlash.
Oh my god, yeah. And that's a problem I have with like MMOs too, is it's like we've got to one up this, we got to power creep this. Like they can have really good stories in MMOs, but it is a constant yes and until they finally end it. Like a lot of anime these days too.
Happening over some of the most minor shit really holds back these games from doing something brave in its story. Though fan backlash is really open-ended for a point, so later I'm going to talk about which backlash is usually common to see. Those are just the general ones I found, and y'all can probably think of some gachas that have run into these problems before. Namely, if anything, the fan backlash, because there have been so many cases of the most pointless drama being made out to be the end of the world. But to talk about an easy common problem first, the characters and hell, everything in the story needing to revolve around the protagonist. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, you can do a good story without things having to revolve around the protagonist, though. Like, there are a lot of stories. I mean, hell, Game of Thrones did really well, and their entire book franchise, like, at least through the first few, is literally, oh, yeah, we're just going to, you know, kill off the guy you thought was going to be the main character. And now this person's, nope, that person's gone now. I hope you didn't like that character, because now, you know, it's like that a lot. But, and they did a decent story. Oh, dang, my mouse is in the wrong spot right now.
When I go to play a gacha that I've heard has spectacular world building and I watch as before my eyes whenever it goes to show something in the world and needs to find a stupid ass way to shoehorn in the player character, bro, I want to cry. Now, there are times it makes sense, like if you're exploring the world via that character and their perspective is really the only one that matters. Think, for example, Limbus Company, where, yeah, there's this big world and the world building will be established, but first and foremost, this is a story about Dante and the sinners. That's what it revolves.
And that's why it's honestly a really good way to do the story that way, because like it revolves around something you can tangentially feel that you can actually connect with.
It's the only thing that's important, and it works because the story is built around that. But think about if, in Nikke, the story of the Gacha squad was explained, but they felt the need to keep the protagonist in the story. So instead of making it so you just watch what happens, and as far as you know, at that point of the story, the commander knows none of this, because this shit's off in the past, they make it so the commander accidentally stumbles upon like a VR headset, and after pressing play, they figure out the story of what really happened. And every now and then in the story, it cuts to the commander YouTube reacting to some tragic shit. Like, it seems stupid.
And yet, whenever you negatively talk about Nikke or Nike or however you want to say it as a game, whenever you talk about that particular game, you'll have droves of the fandom come in and be like, no, I swear it's got a great story, as they're hiding it from their parents when their parents walk in.
Imagine if in Arknights during the second 𝐸𝐴𝐸 event, the doctor was just staring at Lapland and Texas, watching them play the most dramatic damn Yuri ever, and just yelling at them to get a room at the end. Okay, wait, that actually sounds kind of funny, I wouldn't be against that. Or in reverse 1999.
All right, you got me, man. You got me. That was funny.
What if they felt the need to throw Writting into every single event? It'd get kind of comical with how often they would be throwing her into different time points. Yo, she'd straight up be like, oh, ancient China? Been there. The fall of the Roman Empire? Watched it happen. The cavemen inventing fire? Who you think taught them? But when it brings...
Sadly, I don't know if I'm knowledgeable enough to actually do a full proper review of this video. Like, I have not played a lot of these gacha games. Bringing in the random guy I always have in the background of these videos. Hey, TPS.
Yep.
Have you played this one?
Nope, but I have friends who have.
Okay, so does it make sense that it'd be cool if this person jumped back, you know, like had been to those locations, or is this just like any insight on this one for me?
For this, it'd be just kind of meh if I can recall correctly.
Okay, well let's move on. We'll see how this. Yeah, we'll see if I can continue to agree.
Of the story feeling the need to revolve around the protagonist, I don't just mean from their perspective. I more so mean it's a part of a greater problem with a lot of these games where the player character is treated like the center of the earth and nothing else is as important. Even when thematically within the world, that doesn't make sense. And I don't mean to say this and make it sound like...
Yeah, because like most of the time, let's face it, let's go back to Arknights. You don't bring... I know it's like supposed to be your character going out and doing things. You're the doctor. And it's been a couple years since I've played the game, but like 𝐜𝐨𝐬 or whatever her name is like your central secondary companion. And after a while, no one brings her into combat anymore. They're like, I got all my 5-tier people. They're better. So they stop bringing her. I don't know. Maybe a weird way to do it, but I get it's basically, I see the problem with a lot of other gacha games is you build up the best team ever that you can build. You run through the story. You're doing the story. And when it cuts out of story into combat, it's just you do whatever the hell you want. And you're not bringing in the people that are necessary for that part of the story to make sense. So it breaks your suspension of disbelief a little bit because you're not just jumping in and going, okay, this character is here. And again, with Limbus Company, they do that very well. If 𝐜𝐨𝐬 is supposed to be in a fight, 𝐜𝐿 is in that fight. If 𝐸𝐵 is supposed to be in a fight, 𝐸𝐵 in the time interval, though, you get to bring a small squad with you, and the people that are in jail can't be in the fights with you. So yeah, I think it's a suspension of disbelief issue, honestly, with a lot of these games.
Like I'm hating some of the stories that are trying to be more of a power fantasy or specifically focus on the protagonist above all else. Because even though it's not my cup of tea, I'm not going to judge a genre of a story by, well, it's sticking to the genre. I more so mean in the sense that...
Not a bad edit, but definitely awkward when you say it and it's a big ass on screen.
The plot and characters of a gacha, mainly the characters, but the plot conforms to this also, are being crafted to make you like the marketed character or be interested in the marketed character or whatever. A lot of the time, the stories in these games are made as a pipeline for you to want to roll for the character. Not to say a story that focuses on a character is bad, just ones that exist to give you a character. Think for example, Arknights. For the most part, I think it heavily avoids this issue as a lot of the events feel like they're meant to build up the world more. That risk of characters not really appearing that much in their own event or not taking the spotlight. Like Ascalon releasing with a Babel event story, but being far from the focus of it, as that story mainly focuses on world building. But since
yeah, and so along with a lot of things when it comes to like writing or artwork, there tends to be like a 3-tier system in my opinion. And world building is only one aspect. Like, yes, world building is important for good story. You can't have a great story that has absolutely no world building. I know I'm pulling a Sith here and doing absolutes right now, but honestly, like world building, character development, and some kind of conflict that is actually interesting has to be in your story in order for it to actually be a good story. It doesn't have to be world-ending conflict. Like, a lot of the times people hear the word conflict and think it has to be battles and epic stuff. It could be somebody missing a bus to school. It's still a conflict for your story you're trying to tell. So honestly, I don't know if that's where they're going to go in this video, but the fact that a lot of these gacha games will focus on one thing and not the other 2 tiers more than everything else, like, a lot of gacha games, I would say, are world building and conflict with no story or character development. Then you've got games, Limbus Company would be more character development and world building, and they slack a little bit on the combat, but that's because it's very samey, and you're not like, yes, you're getting new IDs to do new things in, which builds the combat up a bit, but it's not to the tier of the world building and the character driven story, which is okay. Like, it's higher than any of the other, pyramids you're looking at here. Because like with like Arknights, you've got world building, you've got your combat, but you don't really character drive as much. And the character driven is lower on Arknights than the combat would be in, say, Limbus Company.
Arknights been going on for a while. Of course it has event stories that are misses, and if I wanted to look for one that just felt like it was there to sell or focus on the banner character, 𝐜𝐤 the Great Chief Returns is easy pickings.
And let's face it, Laplad best girl. Wait, what?
For overall plot significance, nothing important really happens. I am being dead ass. It feels like a filler episode of an anime. Not just because it's also a beach episode too. The entire story is just a pretty minor conflict between 𝐜𝐤 and 𝐸𝐤, however the hell you pronounce that name. And it's clear it was just made to...
You pronounced it better than I would have, probably.
...introduce 𝐸𝐤 as a character. That's it. That's all it does. I wouldn't even say it's all that good of an introduction to Sargon, because the region's so vast, you also got places like this in it, so you can't really use it 100% for that. Then, let's look at the one right next to it, Mario Neural. Even though it focuses on her and is very much...
I am so far behind on Arknights. If it wasn't for the fact that my account got sniped, I would have... I would probably be caught up, because I was playing it religiously for a while. I like the tower defense style combat for it, but damn, I am so far behind.
Her story of going through the tournament, it sets up Highness Sylvestris, tells more about her family, and is set up for Nearlight. In The Great Chief, all it provides to the overall plot is 𝐸𝐤 existing, but Mario Neural, released right after, does so much more. That's the difference I'm talking about. One feels like they needed a story for a character banner, the other feels like they wanted to tell a story about the world with interesting characters. And yes,
I mean, you made the anime analysis yourself, and this is an anime-based video game, in a sense. So they are going to have filler episodes. They are going to have the beach episode. They are going to have the goofy let's go to the arcade episode, and maybe the sauna episode. You know, they're going to have those awkward episodes. So it makes sense. It's just meant to have some downtime for the characters.
of course, it's early Arknight stories, so there definitely were some growing pains back then within the plot. This isn't meant to be me condemning the story, as I think it's one of the best I've read, and I also plan to praise it later. It was just an easy example. But, you know, okay, to be fair, I don't think we could fully blame growing pains. I mean, dear God, before this was Twilight of Olamund and Dark Knight's Memoir. After was Mario Neural and Mansfield Break. Okay, so, you know, maybe growing pains had a fair bit to do with it, but that's the difference I'm talking about. It feels like most gachas make story as a vehicle to sell their characters instead of making an interesting world with characters you are invested in. In Arknights, there's a laundry list of NPCs I want.
Man, was that like I am so far behind on Arknights. Is that like an actual cutscene for the game, or like what was going on there? Because like I'm so used to just 2D models and text when it came to Arknights.
Intro to the start of the event, technically.
Yeah, I don't remember any freaking
It's like an intro
fluid
thing.
motion stuff. Like what the hell?
It's like a first time introduction.
Was I just so far behind when I actually started playing the game?
No, they only recently introduced it like I think a year ago.
Okay.
It's been 3D since then.
Oh, okay. That is definitely interesting. All right.
Playable characters. In other games, I don't got any NPCs I care about because whenever a new character is brought into the story, it's when their banner is up. And when that banner is gone, we get to witness some KGB level operation against that character because goddamn, we never see their ass in the story again. Yo, they ain't even on the back of a milk carton, bro. They get turned into alchemy dust when that banner timer hits 0.
He's not wrong.
To less of an exaggerated extent, the characters disappearing is actually a problem I had with 𝐓𝐴 back when I used to play it. Not the overall story, as the main plotline didn't feel like it was there to sell me characters, though I can't talk.
I've never heard it pronounced, shortened down to 𝐓𝐴, but that's makes sense.
But the story now, from what I've been hearing, it's actually really been pulling up, but I played as Zanny's patch, and after getting her to like sequence 3, I eventually stopped playing the game some weeks later due to not have enough time.
I was told I should play this game, and I never got into it. And it was by several different people. It was by my friend Noah. It was by a few people in the community. I'm pretty sure Frog told me to do it. By the way, go check out Miss Andy Frog if you guys want to. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, yeah.
But from memory of how it was back then, after a character's banner was over, you weren't seeing them again. They were banished to the Shadow Realm or something, bro. Like eviscerated, or some only exist.
He's out here making fucking Yu-Gi-Oh references like, talk to the hand, 𝐜𝐤.
in their quest line. But another problem that exists from the perspective of no matter what we need to sell these characters is watering down a character to make them more appealing to roll for. And I'm not talking about making them simple and having easy to read character traits. That's just poor writing. I'm talking about actively defanging a character to make them more palatable. If anyone who's going to be marketed needs to be a morally good person, that is how you end up with the most boring cast of characters. If everyone is sunshine and rainbows, happy ass do-gooder characters, it gets old, quick.
And again, this is why Limbus does it well, because Ryoshu, not afraid to cut your ass down. You know, Raja's got a complicated backstory. A lot of these gacha games, yeah, he's not wrong. They do have, I have to be a good guy character syndrome. Like, there's no one with you know, put 1 7 deadly sin, you know, into each character, and boom, you make them that much more interesting.
But it's also entirely the case that some people don't want to roll for characters who are pieces of shit. Like, I remember seeing some people saying they weren't about to roll for Virtuoso on Arknights because she's done some fucked up stuff in the story, which, if you don't want to pop off, you ain't gotta. But since this is a business model, if companies prioritize making money above all else, which, you know, pretty commonly they do, it can end up with
I would roll for her. She seems cool already, and I haven't even seen this character yet.
the characters you roll for being made to be widely acceptable because that's what makes them money. Not to say
I'm a bit of a whore when it comes to some of these games. I'm like, hey, I want to have a good team. And like in earlier Arknights, like I went for, I can't remember her name. I'll put a picture of her on screen here, but she was the redhead with the machine gun. Like
𝐜𝐸.
Yeah, 𝐜𝐸. She was a badass character. She had a good stun. She had really fast attack speed. She could wipe out an entire army by herself. I went for her. I went for the one I called Hoochie Mama too, which is the one-horned shield chick.
𝐓𝐴𝐷𝐼𝐷.
Yeah, it was meant to be a joke.
No.
But, you know, she was a great tank, you know? So, yeah, I intentionally... But it's a tower defense game. You're supposed to have people that can do their jobs well. So, if this character here, Virtuoso, was a good character, you know, I would definitely go for her.
The opposite of that, and you've got to speak with your wallet and roll for evil characters to make them create more, but to say that if it's a trend which makes companies money, most, especially ones that don't really care about the story, will go to make money. Now, for overall story aspects that I feel like are often impacted, the story almost never ending is the biggest one. For two reasons, this can really hurt the story. Either if the game end of services abruptly and the story can never finish, or if the game does well, since they don't want it to stop and still get money, they keep it going like a hamster wheel forever. Now, not a lot has hit the second example, but too many fit.
Yeah, I definitely am. I definitely feel this when it comes to a lot of anime these days. Like, Inuyasha's story was done. They did a Next Generations thing. Naruto had a decent story, decent ending. You finish it off with Naruto the Last. The Last. And instead, you go into Boruto. It's like, let's just let anime finish the story. That's why Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is probably one of my favorite animes, because it tells its story and it stops. We haven't had Edward and Winry's kids running around in their future adventures, you know. There hasn't been new homunculus to keep things going. So, no, it's... And I can see these video games, if they're successful enough, doing the never-ending story thing, and it just being so bad. I think it's part of the reason I stopped playing World of Warcraft when I did. Yes, part of it was the fact that they did the what-if scenario with Warlords of Draenei, but it's really hard to one-up scenarios over and over again, especially when you've pulled from their deep lore to make some of the greatest expansions they had, all the way up to Cataclysm, which you had to deep dive into the lore to even know about Deathwing. But like afterwards, it's just like, let's do Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, whatever.
Into the first category, but the bigger problem is since ending the story could be seen as the end of the game, like think how Destiny was when they wrapped up the main story of the final shape, then how everyone could after that, it can make stories do everything in their power to extend the plot and not get to a final conclusion, though.
Or give us a far inferior Destiny 2.
To be honest, the case of Destiny is really particular on its own, because that was a good chunk of the community actually finally wanting to be done with the game. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was the image of the dude breaking their chains. Motherfuckers wanted out. Then the other problem...
And then some of us, you know, pulled our friends back in to platinum the game with us. Right, TP?
Need to get to 400. Need to get to 400.
Gotta finish that one dungeon. Just the one. Just the one. Get to level 400. We gotta do it. Light level 400.
Is fan backlash. Now, you can say this one isn't a gacha specific thing, but I won't lie, some backlash to certain story aspects in games I only see in gachas. I don't know what it is, I don't know if they're cursed, but so many times, shit that fly in a regular game just doesn't in a gacha. But generally, it'd be like, characters having relations between each other, not even romantic, like friend relationships. I was able to do an entire video on people fucking losing their minds over that. Characters you can get via gacha dying.
Wait, people complain about that in gacha games? Why would you complain about characters actually being realistic?
It was quite big in the Girls Frontline too.
Look, I guess because I've been trying to stay desperately out of the Limbus community to not get spoiled. I just haven't seen it, but like,
it's not in Limbus.
Oh.
It's in other gacha games.
Yeah, and I've never really jumped. I've never jumped into the YouTube online community for any of these other games. Because, like, I played Arknights to play Arknights. I didn't play Arknights to be the very best like no one was before, so...
It's mainly in the Chinese community, specifically, where these dramas start.
Yeah, that's dumb.
In the story, sometimes people don't have huge crash outs, others I've seen voodoo summoning rituals be done because of it. And
voodoo summoning rituals.
And having the protagonist either shown as weak or have weakness. Now, I think a lot of these restrictions for the overall story can come from the idea of,
Oh man, I need someone to play Go with. TP, get over here and play Go with me.
Go? What do you mean Go?
It's literally like Chinese chess, man. Get over here and play Go with me.
Okay. Okay, that makes more sense.
Money to get this character, I feel entitled to how they're written, so if you write them in a way I don't like or kill them off, I'll be mad. Not to judge if that's a fine perspective to have, because I don't care to get into that now, but it can hamper what's willing to be written in a story. As I've heard a couple of times now when authors explain their stories, they say,
and before people go to murder me, yeah, I know it's more complicated than chess. It was just the easiest way to get them to know what I was talking about.
Characters go off and can break the bounds of what they intended for their plot. That's what happens when you write them fully in character and let that influence what happens in the story. But if during...
I know this isn't this right here, I don't know what game it is, but this is reminding me heavily of the Sky Palace in the original Code vein.
The writing process, you need to kowtow around other people's wants and expectations for the character. When those don't match up with the actual character, it can create pretty sloppy writing. But those are the general problems I see when it comes
when that character started walking forward. I thought it was focused on their ass until it took another step. Those are some ridiculous pants.
To what gachas have to deal with for writing their story that not a lot of other story-focused games need to deal with, or need to deal with to the same extent. Not to mention how being live service makes the writing itself.
Do they have to make her so goofy in these cutscenes? Like, she seems to be a serious character most of the time, and now she's just goofy as fuck.
20 times harder because you're expected to release good story consistently at a steady stream rather than being able to take significant time between games. Now, I want to talk about games I think do a good job at avoiding some of these problems and what they do. The main games I want to focus on are Reverse 1999, Arknights, and Limbus Company. There's definitely more I could bring up too, and I will, but I just want to...
So what you're telling me is I should probably play Reverse 99, is that what they said?
1999.
Okay, so I should probably play that one.
Focus on them as the main games because I feel confident talking about.
In hell we live and lament.
Them. So one that's a very easy example to bring up of a gacha that avoids all this is Limbus, because they just didn't really make it as a gacha. Like deadass, let's just speedrun this because it's funny how much of this they were able to sidestep. Any watering down of a character to sell them doesn't exist because Limbus doesn't sell characters. They have a core cast and just sell alternate versions of them cosplaying as other characters you see in the story.
That is a way of putting it.
And those other characters, from chapter 1 they showed they don't give a damn about executing them in front of your eyes, so they set the tone immediately. Don't gotta care about throwing stuff and events in your face to get money. If they want to make a unit to roll for, they have an insane backlog of factions and characters to go through. The entire cast is vastly interconnected, it doesn't just feel like it all revolves around Dante. They are more than fine with making morally bad characters.
See, I didn't even have to respond to the entire beginning of this video. I mean, he's saying exactly what I said.
characters, as is evident by the game opening up with a page of content warnings. Since people don't directly gacha for NPCs, they don't feel entitled to them. Doesn't mean they won't be worried if they'll die. I remember like 3 friends of mine were on the edge of an emotional breakdown, terrified if something was going to happen to Hohenheim in Kanto 9, but even on top of that, since most people don't need to gacha for the characters,
it's the closest thing to a spoiler I've gotten to. You sure this is a good video for me, TP? You're laughing.
It's like I hope this gets filtered out.
Less of that mentality to the game. Then since you have a core cast, it doesn't feel like they get left behind outside of their...
This character right here, just because of the cigar, have you ever seen Black Lagoon?
Some of it.
Yeah, it's reminding me of the Russian mob chick so much. It is so awesome.
Marketing period, as the marketing
Yep.
identities are only based around the supporting characters. And
The middle. Wait.
the story is fully tied to exploring the characters as it's making progress towards an overall goal, as that's what the game was built around. The only problems I brought up that can really relate back to Limbus Company.
You know the problem with this slow burn I've been having while playing Limbus Company is those characters that were introduced in Kanto 1, I'm having trouble remembering them. So when I'm streaming and people go, oh, that guy showed up in Kanto, I'm like, when the fuck did that guy show up in Kanto 1? But
like
if I had sped run, no, the one that was in the middle there on that particular picture. But I'm like, if I had sped run this, I would have been able to remember all of that easier. But no, it's been what, a year, and I'm still freaking playing Limbus Company trying to catch up.
Is that the story?
I think it's Herman. Anyways,
revolves around Dante because
Kane.
it's all from their perspective, as it's been the case for all the studio games, so it's by design. But in that case, I wouldn't call it a problem because it's what they're specifically aiming to do. It's what they want to do. It never feels shoehorned in or added when it would make no sense. Then the only thing really beyond that is when the story's going to actually end. Genuinely, that's the only part it being a gacha makes me worried about for Limbus. I mean, fan backlash too, I suppose, because they've crumpled to that before, but 99% of the time that's regulated to balance patches, so the story doesn't really get changed as a result. But the only wonder I got is, when is the story going to end? How are they going to end it? Like, will it just be done and that's it? Keep the servers up for some time after, or make an offline version? I feel like they do got an overall plot and know what they want to hit at the end and what project it'll move into afterwards. Just none of us have an idea of what that's going to look like. But it does make it a good example of a game that is a gacha, but due to being so outside of the norms, they can largely avoid these problems.
Now, the only question I have isn't if it's going to end or when it's going to end. It's if they're going to do a 3-tier system. Because right now we're in Inferno, and I don't know if they're going to do 2 more tiers after Inferno with the story for every sinner. Because if they do, it'll be more like, you know, the book it's based off of, because Project Moon likes its symbolism. And I don't know if they're going to do Inferno and then another one and then another one
or
to make. Yeah, that'd be what they're called. So. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to move on past that. And if they do, then we know exactly how long it's going to go. It's going to go for 36 chapters, right? 12 centers? Fuck.
It's 12 centers.
Yeah, it'd be 36 chapters. So, which is a very long book. I mean, what?
And one to a bit of a similar extent is Reverse 1999, which I was able to play the 3.4 story a bit in advance for this video, as this video is sponsored by Reverse 1999. But it's also an example of a game where it doesn't feel...
Wow. Must be nice. No, I'm joking. Oh, weird.
like it needs to have its story chained to the protagonist. The case is with the story that at the year 1999, time started moving backwards and you're trying to find out why. So as a result, you do spend a lot of time as the protagonist.
I was going to say, the fucking style of the artwork here is definitely not 1999, but now that you're saying time moves backwards, that's interesting. That would have been an interesting twist for Y2K. Everyone's freaking out that their computers and shit's just going to blow up, but it just, time flew backwards.
Vertin, and seeing both her life and investigation into why time's moving backwards. But it's also the case that in so many events, Vertin's just not there. They're not afraid to just drop you at a random point of time and make you follow the story of some characters you just met and have that carry the event. The need isn't there to tie every character to Vertin, though of course barring some general explanation of how they ended up in her suitcase. And they're not afraid—
Wait, what? C'est quoi?
to have the characters in it have very deep connections to one another. In fact, the community actively wants and praises the multiple times the story has done that. But the 3.4 event is an example of what I was talking about. It drops you in China as you follow the story of a girl seeking longevity, as the girl is a 𝐜𝐤.
Oh my god. Why is every Chinese character in like a lot of anime and video games, their whole purpose is they just want to fucking live forever? Like, even in my favorite anime, going back to Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the one Chinese girl has shown up to find immortality for the Emperor from back where she's from. Hell, even the guy who becomes Greed, which is from the same, like, okay, here we go with the family hierarchy in Limbus, but essentially, from the same family, they're both looking for immortality for the Emperor. No, that was not a 40K reference.
Basically, even though she looks like a human, her actual form is a reed. Don't question it. So her lifespan is as long as a reed's lifespan. When winter's over, she's gone. And in her search for longevity, she comes across various points where she can look into what happened in the past. And does 𝐸𝐻𝐻 appear there? Nope. She ain't in the story at all. Instead, she follows the story of another reed who also went on the same path and shows her connection to Paper Heron. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why she's called Paper Heron. Yep, far from...
I'm not seeing any symbolism that would make her look like a bird either, except for the stick in her hair.
From one of the most out there names I've seen a gacha take. I mean, Asbesto still takes the crown, followed shortly by Cement, but I will keep it 100.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with cement. It keeps the foundations together. We both went with a different joke on it.
If it has meaning or connection to some either folklore or wuxia stuff, I'm down for anyone to fill me in. But the event story is built on the bond of Paper Heron and Mayfly. It's through and through their story. They're the entire focus of it. It shows their connection and how the events later on try that connection. And displays how much this longevity means for Mayfly, someone who could only live for a few months. It's something that, if the story had to shoehorn in the protagonist or make it revolve around them, it'd lose a lot of meaning. Like, just imagine Mayfly breaking down about dying in a few months and just cuts to Vern taking her hat off, scratching her hair and going like, man, whew. Yeah, that's rough, buddy.
I mean, again, it's the whole filler arc and side characters getting to have some time to shine situation that happens in a lot of anime. It's not bad for the anime or everything. So I do agree that it definitely would be off-putting to just have the main character show up. Like, you know, if we're in like the world of Apothecary Diaries and they're doing an entire side story of like the different concubines and they're just talking to each other and everything, and then all of a sudden 𝐷𝐷 just jumps in and starts eating poison on the side, it'd be very awkward. So yeah, it makes sense.
Because of this, why Reverse 1999 is a good example of why having your story be able to exist outside of the protagonist can help break the mold. It doesn't feel like you're going through the same stuff on a different day, and in particular, them not being afraid for characters in the game to have deep connections is a breath of fresh air, as I'm used to gachas only softly treading into those waters to not make people mad. And for Arknights, much of the same praise for Reverse 1999 can be said, mainly how it's fine with making stories not involve or be centered around the main character. There's so many plot lines in the world that progress without the Doctor being there. And
dude, what game is that? Is that the Reverse?
That's
19?
Arknights.
That's
no,
Arknights?
That's Arknights. Yeah, context. The angel guys and the demon guys used to be the same race, and they had a war. It's a lot.
They
each had a war and
so
separated.
epic. Like that scene. Like, I need to make that a wallpaper or get it fucking mounted on my wall or something. That is so cool. You know what else would be cool? If you guys went ahead and liked the video and subscribed to the channel. If you guys like this kind of content, like me actually reacting to some stuff like this, go ahead and tell me in the comment section down below. I can continue doing it a little bit. A few of you guys said you like hearing different perspectives from things, so in the last one at least, so let me know.
Ones that do focus on them end up feeling earned because the story took the time to build the player character up and show their importance in the world. Yes, at first people were glazing the Doctor, but when it was revealed they have amnesia, people were terrified. Some scared, some disappointed, and some suspicious of...
That is my least favorite trope in anime and fiction, is the amnesiac.
If that was actually the case. It created intrigue. Also made the Doctor feel more human because they weren't shoved up to be a beacon. Them doubting themselves added to that too. It's night and day when compared to Enfield, where you having amnesia gets some characters to perk up, but it really just feels mostly forgotten unless it's needed as an excuse for Perlica to explain something about the world. It's why I label.
And that's why I can't stand it. It's usually used as a plot device so that people have to explain shit to you instead of doing the show not tell method. I'm a bigger fan of the show not tell method, honestly.
Story quests where the Endman shows their insecurities was one of my favorite writing moments in the game. It felt real. The Endman didn't seem like just a pillar. They felt like a character. It's just too bad that didn't bleed much into the actual main storyline. But back to talking about the plotline Arknights, it's such a common problem for gachas to forget their cast of characters, as if you're constantly making them, it's hard to give them all screen time. But the business model insists you make a new batch of them every few weeks. And Arknights does fall into the same problem with a good chunk of the characters, mainly the 4 stars and stuff. However, because they have set a core cast of characters to be in the spotlight for various plot lines of various areas, it's a good way to make sure a wide net of characters stay relevant and keep getting development. Like, after Lingering Echoes, 𝐸𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐿 wasn't thrown away, he pulled up in 𝐓𝐿𝐽𝐽. Arturia teased in Lingering Echoes.
See, I don't have much to say about this one because I've lost so much time in it, but I definitely agree that Arknights did at least keep a lot of their characters relevant into the future. So that was always good with Arknights.
Pulls up in 𝐜𝐨𝐧𝐭, appears in 𝐓𝐿𝐽𝐽, then goes off to pop off in Mass's Travels. Saria, she's got the Rhinelap plotline. Mansfield, Dorothy's Vision, Lone Trail. Because
I mean, though, they shouldn't be afraid to like kill off some characters inside of their game on occasion. I just don't know how they would do it in the story and make it make sense for them still being able to be used in combat.
They have for most, if not all of them. The only one is 𝐜𝐨𝐳.
They've killed characters off that are still usable in combat?
Yep. One of them is a hologram. Another is a literal dead corpse that has been revived. Necromancy. Just necromancy.
Gotcha. It's at least they have excuses.
Like, she's there, but she's not like sentient. She's just being basically somewhat controlled.
It at least gives them a reason for them to exist, but it's still, weird. But
yeah, they spend time building their world. They're able to have a different core cast of characters based on the region's story.
It's not like in, Final Fantasy VII or whatnot when they kill off Aerith and you just can't use her ever again, They can't really do that in a game where people have to buy certain units, so.
Which makes it so the characters in that plotline don't end up feeling one note, brought in and thrown away when their banner's done. Now, from what I've explained so far, any more examples will be me repeating more of the same, as my thoughts basically boil down to, in a story, the characters are the lifeblood of it. When those characters are set up purely for making money, there's a lot of pitfalls that can make those characters feel less interesting in the pursuit of making money. Most obvious to see is them only existing for one patch. It can end up making the cast feel less important. Think, for example, about a Final Fantasy game.
I literally just brought up a Final Fantasy game. This guy is pre-watching my existence. It's weird.
Your main crew of characters in it, that's the main crew. You will be spending the entire journey with them, instead of the entire journey is filled with 100 plus characters that have the depth of a puddle. It's possible.
I mean, why do you think, not Dissidia, but Final Fantasy, what was it, Heroes didn't work so well? No one really gave a crap about that game. No one wanted to buy new Final Fantasy heroes in it.
It's possible to have a wide cast with depth, but it's more likely that, due to time constraints, it being a live service, or higher-ups calling the shots instead of the devs that have real passion for the game, a lot of the choices can be made that hurt the character writing and then the overall story writing. Or the story can be watered down to make really safe choices that the suits think will make the money. Like, you know what, okay. A bit of an extreme hypothetical, but hear me out and question if this would be off the mark to see in a gacha. In the original Final Fantasy VII, when Aerith dies, that's it. No reviving. You get a funeral at the end of Disc 2, if memory serves me correctly, and that's it. She's gone. You're never seeing her again. Deceased. But.
And it's funny because I got a lot of crap for mentioning the Phoenix Down conundrum with this one. Someone was like, well, they're only unconscious or like near death when they're dead in your party when you're fighting something. So it's not like when Aerith dies, because when Aerith dies, it's like real death, like she's dead. And I'm sitting there going, That makes no sense because there's the death spell in Final Fantasy, not the near death spell. Anyway, sorry. Tangent.
The catatonic state spell.
If it was a gacha game, could you see this happening?
I mean, there were so many theories and so many backyard or like playground fucking false flags where people are like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is this, get this materia, do that, go back to the golden saucer, do this over here, and you could totally revive Aerith. And then people would get screenshots of like people who had hacked Aerith back into the game and be like, see, she's here at the final fight. And it's just like, ah, man. And that was like one of the big all time during this period, like pre-internet fake, everyone believed it could happen situations.
Aerith dies in your arms. Big moment. Then in the next patch, or some anniversary patch, you go through an event story where you save her because insert convenient reason here, like power of love, �XYZ. Then because of the fact you saved her, the character on the banner of that event is an alter form of Aerith. And she's broken as all hell until getting power crept in a year, but that part of this hypothetical is unrelated to the idea of the story. But is
Aerith's healing skills were pretty broken. That's the thing is losing Aerith in Final Fantasy VII like messed up your team comp because she did have the best healing limit breaks.
that actually off the mark to see happening? That's what I mean when I say being a gacha can impact the story, because something like that is incentivized really only in this business model. You can maybe say it'd be the case for a live service or DLC, but those usually survive off the gameplay and the story being promising for the expansion. But gachas are inherently more character oriented because what they sell is the character. Now with that being said, do good ones that aren't trying to squeeze every penny you got have this problem? No, but that's not the case for all. And even in the cases for ones with great stories, you can see times where they do stuff that is meant to help their character's markability. But above all, what I think the biggest problem is, would be the never-ending story. When you have a lot to say, it's hard for anyone to want it to end, but I do think there is value in a story finally closing its book. Or
definitely value in that, yeah.
At least the current arc it's on. Like, is 𝐓�‌GO ending service anytime soon? Nah. But the two major story arcs have wrapped up, so there is a sense of closure for that story. It feels definitive. But honestly, that one might just be my personal perspective. I mean, all of this is my personal perspective, but that one might be even more so. Because I mean, okay, for example, I think the high points in Limbus' story beat out the high points in Library of Ruina's story, and I ain't afraid to say.
I haven't played Library of Ruina yet, but that one might lead to a few people being angry with you. There's a lot of fans of Library of Ruina. But, I mean, do the low points in Limbus Company soar higher than the low points in Library? That's the true question. Because like, the low points in Limbus Company are really, really low sometimes. So, like, did the story sink that low when it came to Library? And LobCorp is okay with it, but...
But if you ask me which I think is the better story, I'd easily say Library of Ruina, because it's definitive. I know how it's full from beginning to end. But if Limbus keeps this same level of quality up till its ending, that alone would elevate it to honestly top 5 stories I've read in games. Not even if it improves during the upcoming cantos, just if it stays at its current level till the end. But those are the reasons as to why I think, on average, the story in gachas don't hit as hard as the ones in fully released games, not to mention how long it takes to build a story up. You know, we all talk about early story.
Yeah, definitely agree. It is hard to compete with a completely told story. And then when you do the sequel situation, when you're like, you know, you've got like, I don't know, let's say God of War, the Norse series, you know, you've got the first one and it told up to a certain point and then it continues and that, you know, it's set up for a continuation. But it's hard for me to care so much about that because, like, all right, so one of the most hated endings of all time, especially in modern history, is the ending of Halo 2. A lot of people saw it as not a sure thing, like they were being crazy with ending it on a cliffhanger like that. But to me, that was one of my favorite endings of all time. So, like, I don't know, like definitive endings going. I don't know. I don't know. This is something odd to actually think about. I might make a video on it. I don't know.
In Gacha being asked. Yeah. When the rep is it gets good after 50 hours, it's hard to really make people invested in the story. But the ones I mentioned, Limbus, Reverse 99, and Arknights, do a good job at avoiding these problems, and it's why I think the story in them rivals story-based games that I played. And it's not just them. I'd say some others like 𝐜𝐸, Heaven Burns Red do fit into this as well. I just don't feel as confident talking about them as I do the other games because I'm yet to play them as much. So
fair. And when you said Reverse 1999, I had no idea what you were talking about. So I get it. I
don't feel as though,
in fact, you might have actually just won somebody over to playing a new game.
There as much depth I can give in my discussion. And for some others I played but dropped, I didn't want to talk about them without some caveats to explain that I don't know how the story is in them now. Like Honkai Star Rail, I can just
It's Twink Virgilis. I mean, not Virgilis, Twink Virgil from fucking Dante May Cry, or Devil May Cry.
Dante May Cry. Devil May Cry.
I'm all over the place right now. What the hell?
Dante.
But come on, it's definitely Twink Virgil from Devil May Cry.
judge up the panic. Beyond that, couldn't tell you anything. But I wanted to make this video to discuss these problems that I've seen pop up over the course of me playing a bunch of different gachas for my videos, as I do think there's an interesting discussion to be had, and recently, I've just been wanting to play more story-based games. Kind of, especially because Final Fantasy Tactics left me disappointed as hell in the story. Because
it's funny, because I agree with like 90% of everything this guy has said in this video, but like our one point of butting our heads together is like the hate boner he's got for Final Fantasy Tactics' story.
It felt mid after years of everyone saying it's one of the best Final Fantasy games, but I mean, hey, I just had to sneak that one in there. I'm sorry, that's still a fresh wound. I'm not letting that one go. You can say it's a garbage take, but I don't care. It's true.
I'm not saying it's a garbage take. I allow everyone to have their own opinion on things. I can see why people wouldn't like it, especially if you've played other Final Fantasies. Final Fantasy has a formula. It's church bad. Fucking your heroes are good. They're always for some reason against the church. That is the Final Fantasy formula. Like, regardless of what you think, that's how they've played almost all of their games for some reason. So,
Hosting a bridge is a Final Fantasy?
A what?
Hosting is Final Fantasy, technically?
Hellsing is Dark Final Fantasy, yeah. Well, guys, that is the video. Let's talk about why it's harder for gacha games to make a good story. Sonol here seems like a pretty good person. Go check out their channel, give them a view, give them a watch. You know I kind of went through most of this one with you guys, but they've got plenty of other videos that look really good over on their channel. They've got Is It Peak Now when they're talking about infield. They've got a bunch, like, they've got a very good thumbnail design and everything here. It's like very easy to see like their style and know it's their video. They probably, ooh, How to Write Trauma. Kanto 8 is a story I needed to hear. I might go watch this one after I finish Kanto 8, honestly, myself. Anyway, guys, like I said, go check out their channel. This video was pretty good. They probably got some other really good ones in here that I can't check out due to spoilers. But with all that being said, guys, remember, be good to each other. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.